I'll go ahead, and it's hard to follow Coach Satake. It's been great to spend some time with him, and we're certainly pleased on behalf of the University of Wyoming to play in this ball game. The Redcoats have been phenomenal. Our players, families, and wives have really soaked in the moment, and as Kalani was mentioning, it's important to celebrate. The bowl games, when they first were started, were an opportunity for teams to celebrate a great year and go into community and embrace that community, and this has really been a special treat for us. And for me personally, you know, about halfway through the year, we began to prove the pundits wrong. Some of my friends out here in the room, we were picked last in our division, unanimously last, but I felt like we were going to have an opportunity to be a pretty good football team, and then you saw some of the matchups. And so when you say BYU, you know, for me as a fairly experienced football coach, I always have great respect and admiration for Brigham Young. And Coach Satake talked about Lavelle Edwards. He truly, for me, was a guy in our profession that always held high esteem for him. And I thought Kalani really had a great statement there that, you know, for me, coming from Coach Osborne and him coming from Coach Lavelle, it's kind of how these two teams are matching up. And so it's really going to be a great ball game. You know, we've got wrong button there. And I didn't mean that as a crack to the fellows out here. We have a football team, I think, that overachieved for a lot of people. You know, certainly coming into the year, there were a lot of question marks. We didn't, you know, we had a great returning running back, Brian Hill. Didn't have a lot of other offensive productions. We had some real challenges on defense. We have a small senior class, but I want to say that senior class has really been special. And the performances that they've had this year really been super. And then I think Brian Hill has really answered the bell. You know, he's rushed for over 1,700 yards this year against good competition. He really is a competitive player that, you know, he runs with a relentless attitude, and so that's really added a lot. And then Josh Allen has been not so much a surprise to us, but I think a surprise to a lot of people around the country. Josh is only, I think he's grown a little bit. He's 6'5" plus, and does have good mobility. He's got a strong arm, and he's a fearless competitor. Sometimes I'd like to bring him back a little bit because he'll take off and he feels like he's got an S on his chest. But, you know, you want that in a quarterback. And so yeah, we're really pleased with the season, and to have an opportunity to cap it off against a great program. You know, you talk about teams. This is a great program, and for us to have an opportunity to re-engage these two institutions on the gridiron is truly special. I know much has been asked about the rivalry. I did not have an opportunity. You know, when the two schools competed, you know, a lot of our fan base in the state, since the proximity of the two institutions so close, there's a lot of crossover. And I think that just adds another flavor to the game. I believe this: if you go down all the different bowl matchups, this one is going to enjoy national recognition, and you've got two great programs that are going to strap it on here Wednesday night. So at this time, any questions?
Greg, you mentioned matchups. At least in your mind, where are some of the most critical matchups in this game between the two teams in your mind?
Well, I think first of all, kind of like Coach Satake, I'm an old defensive coach, and there's tremendous skill players, and I'm going to talk about BYU skill players, but you know, this game is a man's game played by men, and it really starts up front. And when I look at their defensive front, really imposing. I'd like to return the compliment. I watch technique, I watch defensive linemen, I watch how their defensive guys play, and they have finished really strong. Their guys are always in the right spot. They establish the line of scrimmage. There's always new players coming in, so it's a tremendous amount of depth. And that's a real challenge right there. You know, for us to be able to establish the line of scrimmage and win the line of scrimmage on both sides, I see that as being a big challenge. I also see Tanner as being an excellent quarterback. Now, you know, the things that he was able to accomplish last year, and it says so much about his character. You know, when you're out there under the bright lights and you're achieving at a high level, and then come in and take a supportive role, that tells me a lot about a guy. And so for him to be leading that offense, he's got a great arm. And then the other challenge that I see with BYU, between Williams and Tanner and the receivers, they're balanced now. And well, they were balanced before, but that always poses a problem. I'm an old defensive coach, and when you're going against an offense like that, you just picture yourself, there's a dam, and there's 3 holes, and you got 2 corks, and you're always trying to match something up. And it does make it a challenge. That's why I have no hair, Connie. I don't know, he's getting a little thin on the sides. So, and the other thing, too, just playing, attitudes do count. We've got an emerging football team. We believe that the future is really bright, but the bedrock of a foundation has been gone for quite some time. This first winning year we've had in quite some time. I think BYU's players, their expectation, Robert, is to win. And so how they handle themselves and they handle adversity, that's a sign of a great program. And we're striving for national recognition and to return Cowboy football back to national prominence, and this game has given us another opportunity.
Coach, you mentioned the senior class. Before this season, I think without fail, almost all of them mentioned the bowl game as a real big goal for the season. I know that the goals changed a little bit as the season went on, but can you tell just how much this means to those seniors to get to finally go to a bowl?
Well, it means a tremendous amount, because that's kind of a step that a lot of, I don't want to say a rite of passage, but a lot of players and these guys, what is so special about them, we put in, I'm an old college football buff, and I've said this time and time again, we put signs up in our indoor practice facilities that those who stay will be champions. And that's Bo Schembecker saying, but it's true. And so this senior class has very few players in it, but those guys who have stayed, that have bought in, and then for them to be able to cap it off and go out as a senior and play in a great bowl game against a great opponent, I think it's going to be something that they'll always remember. I'll always be indebted to them. Look forward to one of those class reunions 20 years from now, because these guys are really going to be special, and they've been a great joy to be around. I'll be saddened that this will be the last opportunity I have a chance to coach them.
How grateful are you the fact that the Wyoming fan base is growing each week? Each time that you guys take on the field, it just seems like it's growing and growing and growing.
Well, it's been exciting to see, because Kalani had talked about some of our games. I remember we played Boise a couple years ago, and I had our DFO take a picture because there weren't a lot of people in there. Now, granted, it was a cold night. But War Memorial Stadium has really truly flipped. Our students have become engaged. They've rushed the field. Tim's had to bail me out a couple times. One thing about Wyoming that I have appreciated, we're a large geographic state, but our population base is relatively small. So something that goes on in Cheyenne, somebody in Cody knows about it. And we have one school. And those people wear brown and gold with a great deal of pride. A lot of our fans have shown up, and they are really Cowboy tough. Our state has gone through some challenges, with the energy industry, but we have tough, resilient people, and we'll say tough times don't last, but tough people do. So it's been great to see that football team kind of rally our state around that.
Coach, in that Mountain West Championship game, Josh Allen got rattled around quite a bit. What steps do you take to try to fix that for this bowl game on Wednesday?
Well, that and there lies a big challenge, as I talked about, starting with the defensive front that BYU has. They're very an imposing team, and they're able to rotate a lot of guys, and they're fresh. And so Josh is a resilient player, and he's an intense competitor. He got hit way too much. He kept bouncing back. I can tell you this, it was good fortune that we weren't playing BYU the next week, because, he was, you could play him, but, he was sore. And so, certainly we're going to need to establish the line of scrimmage through the running game. Now, that always helps. If you're able to run the football, that opens up so many things and takes a lot of pressure off our quarterback. And so that's going to be important. And Josh's got to make sure he's making good decisions, too. like I said, and I appreciate this about him. I mean, he threw what would have been a pick six, and I've seen a lot of other quarterbacks just kind of veer off. I mean, he went and hunted the guy down and lit him up, and the ball got fumbled, and it was a touchback. That's good. The bad part is he came out and he had blood out of his lip, and his eye was all messed up. So I like him not to be tackling very much this game. Other questions?
Coach, what's it mean to you and your program, specifically for recruiting on the West Coast, to play in the Poinsettia Bowl?
Well, it's been another step within our program. We've been very focused. Recruiting is so important. Coach Sataki will tell you, good players make good coaches. And, we've worked extremely hard during the course of the year. But high school prospects and junior college prospects, they want to have an opportunity to play in bowl games. And that's been a barrier for us. A lot of people say, yeah, we like the program, but are you ever going to go to a bowl game? Well, we've accomplished that. And not just accomplished that, to go to a place like San Diego, this bowl game enjoys a great national reputation. And so, we've gotten in a lot more homes. I can't get into the specifics on who we have verbally committed right now, but that list has grown. And a lot of the guys who we targeted as our top recruits on our evaluation, we've been able to have a big, big impact. So this is a big step for us.
Coach, I'll be the first to admit that real men do cry. And I just want to say this season, you can see it in your face, you can see it in your eyes when you're talking about this team. You see that emotion take over you. Mm-hmm. Where does that stem from? I mean, what has really hit that note with you, this team this year?
Well, you're right. Football is an emotional game, and when you have a passion, both Kalani and I will say we probably haven't gone to work a day of our lives yet. And to be around young people and to see them mature and to see them get committed all together, it strikes a chord in your heart. And I don't apologize for being emotional. I think it's just part of who I am. And that sends a message to the players that you do love them and you do care. And that's an X factor that you can have very, very talented teams, and we have talent, and BYU has talent. But to get to here, you got to have more than talent. And so, passion and love for the game and love for one another, I think that's an X factor that you can't quantify. And so, thanks for noting that, though.
Coach, you mentioned early on that obviously a lot of the guys didn't know much about this rivalry since they hadn't been a part of it, but maybe, being around some former players in this bowl setting, they might pick some up. I guess since that time, do you feel like they've gotten a little bit of a feel of what this rivalry used to be?
Well, I think, first of all, you're looking at, programs who played many years ago, and I keep on saying this over and over again, I think BYU probably has a lot of rivals out there. And we have a great deal of respect for them. I know our former players, Randy Wilniak's on our staff, talked about some of the great games that they had. Now, it's been a while ago. And so to have an opportunity to step on the gridiron and strap it on, these are fun games. Many times I'll get asked, Coach, are you nervous? Are you nervous? And, we're really not. I mean, these are games that you want to be in, that you've worked really hard to, and this is why we play the game. And so our players recognize it. They've heard about this from former players, but quite frankly, as Coach Sataki said, that's a whole generation ago. And our players know a lot about BYU, but I do know this: a bunch of old guys who played college football have come up in the hotel, and it's a big deal for them.